who probably knows a lot about people who are really fighting for family and having this reason and to live and dealing with death and dying issues, anger and all that. I'm really curious to find out, his work and hear a lot about his sharing. His name is Shannon Munford, and he is the Chief Executive Officer of Daybreak Counseling Services, and he works with young people and families and in dealing with a lot of the challenging issues dealing with death and dying. So I want to welcome Shannon. How are you, Shannon?
I'm great. How are you?
Thanks for coming today. Why don't we start with just the background of, I guess you're the founder, or?
I'm the founder and owner of Daybreak Counseling Service, yes. Okay. We've been operating for about 6 years.
6 years. By the way, I just want to say that Shannon is an alumni of Cal State Dominguez Hills. He was a sociology major, and he also did his master's in marriage and family counseling. So he is an entrepreneur, and we're just so very excited and proud to have him here. So tell me about this kind of process of finding Daybreak Counseling Service. What was your vision, and what was the whole idea about?
Right. I always wanted to help people. I just never knew how. I ran across a training for anger management. Actually, after reading a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you may be familiar with it. And it fit my desire to help people. And it also kind of fit the background that I was in previously. I was working as a probation officer.
Oh, wow.
So anger management just kind of meshed the two. We started an office out in Gardena. We have 5 offices now, and that was about 6 years ago.
Wow. Tell us a little bit about that kind of infant stages, your experience with, anger issues as a probation officer. What sort of scenarios can you share with us?
Yeah, I started as a probation officer at a lockdown facility called Dorothy Kirby Center. The youth in that facility, they were there for various crimes, assault, carrying deadly weapons. Some of the young girls were there for prostitution, those things. But the common theme that they were all abused and neglected. We had a lot of gang members also. And they exhibited a lot of anger based on what they experienced. It's interesting you talked about death and dying, and there's a population that we don't always mention when you talk about death and dying, and those are individuals who are in gangs. They experience death almost on a weekly basis. Right. And a lot of times that they manifest their emotions in anger, which often leads to aggression.
Right. Well, that's interesting what you say. I mean, that puts another thing in this pond here. And we saw it in the last video clip too. This children asking why, like what causes it, and you just talk to them and try to explain rationally. These are the reasons why. Right. So in your work with these teenagers, these troubled people, what were some of the common things, the reasons why they express these kinds of strong emotions?
A lot of it was loss. Loss of a loved one, whether it was through death or just the fact maybe that their parents weren't there for them. They didn't know how to express how they really felt. One of the things we talk about is anger is a secondary emotion. So oftentimes they're feeling frustrated, they're feeling neglected, they're feeling alone, and those feelings are so painful they don't want to sit there. Mm-hmm. So anger is an emotion that's socially accepted, especially for a lot of individuals within the inner city. So it's something that they can feel powerful about, and they don't have to feel vulnerable. And it's the same with adults also.
Right. So in your work with these teenagers, perhaps when they felt these strong emotions of anger, they didn't have anybody to turn to and talk about it?
Oftentimes they didn't, or the fact that they felt because of the way they were socialized that to talk about their pain was not acceptable. So oftentimes they didn't have anybody, or they just felt that this isn't the way to be strong, this isn't the way to be a man or a woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, personally I think there's, on one level, there's the emotional expression of anger.
Right.
And then on the next level, it's more like some physical outburst.
Right.
So what would cause these teenagers to take it to the next level and be a menace to society?
The aggression, I believe it's just they don't have tools. One of the reasons they're being aggressive is First, they can't identify their own emotions. Oftentimes, they're not identifying how they really feel. They don't communicate well. No one's taught them how to communicate these emotions. We talk a lot about stress management. Young people, as adults, we tell them, what kind of stress could you be under? You don't have any bills to pay. All you need to do is go to school. But young people experience a lot of stress, and they haven't learned to manage those stressors. So communication skills, stress management, a lack of emotional intelligence, not knowing how you really feel. If you lack any of these skills, anger is a possibility for you, and often it may lead into aggression.
I see. Wow. That's a lot there. Okay, now tell me about your counseling center and all these centers. I mean, obviously you're meeting a great need and it's expanding. Do you guys have some sort of mission statement or sort of like a how-to 10-step type of idea? What do you do when a patient or a person comes through your center?
Well, first of all, we have about 3 types of clients. We have individuals who are just coming from the community. They've recognized that anger is a problem for them. Maybe they're involved in a relationship where they're a husband and wife, girlfriend or boyfriend, or some type of intimate partner has asked them to go to an anger management class because it's ruining the relationship. We also have individuals who are ordered by their human resources department. Something's happened on the job. They're good employees, but they're not able to manage their anger to the point where it's you're losing customers. And then we get individuals who are ordered by the court. Something happened in the community. Maybe they were at a football game. Maybe they had some type of road rage incident. And then they're ordered to do the class. The classes can range anywhere between 10 to 52 weeks. Typically, those who are self-referred, we're asking them to do a minimum of 10 sessions. A court-ordered individual, they can do up to a year.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. First of all, that's a very hostile environment, very volatile potentially.
Yeah.
So you must really keep some order there. Are there certain rules that they need to follow? Are there what happens in these sessions that start off from day one?
We do give them rules. We let them know that, first of all, it's a confidential session.
Okay.
Oftentimes people are coming in and they're ashamed of their anger. They're ashamed of their behavior. We instruct the clients not to use any profanity, not because we're prudish, but oftentimes that leads to aggression. We ask the clients to respect one another. And it's interesting, in the 6 years we've been doing the class, we have 5 offices, we've never had an incident where a client was angry at another client. It's usually when they're with an intimate partner. Sometimes alcohol is involved, but they're never angry at each other, and they're not angry with the counselor.
I like these very simple rules. First of all, language. That seems it can provoke or just be that vehicle for anger.
Right.
So they have to control that.
Right.
Then they have to have respect for other people, not just value their own things like that. And then there's a kind of a group sort of process.
Right.
Sort of identification. And you said so many interesting things, like identifying the problem.
Right.
And then trying to deal with whatever emotion that they have. How have you seen these people change as they go through these sessions?
A lot of the clients, whether they're court-ordered or self-referred, they're happy that they were at least forced to come to the class because they find a way to communicate that they haven't been able to communicate before. Oftentimes, they become frustrated because they're feeling a lot of emotion,
right,
but they don't know how to tell people how they feel.
Right.
In the communication component of the class, we talk about the 4 basic communications ways people communicate. Aggressive communicators, and oftentimes this is what we find in the class because someone has saw what they did. But then we also have individuals who are angry, but they're passive communicators. So they really don't express their anger, their emotion. It often builds, and oftentimes these individuals get involved in behaviors like addiction because they're trying to cover their emotion. Oftentimes they become sick or even develop mental illness. Then we have the passive communicator who won't scream at you, they won't yell at you, they won't throw anything at you, but they're very sarcastic. They're going to attack you in a way, in a calm demeanor, especially if they know you very well. But they're still trying to get their frustration out. I call them the ninja of communicators, because it's like you got hit,
Right.
but you don't know where it came from.
Wow.
And then we have assertive communication, and this is how we want to be. We want people to know how we feel, why we feel that way, the behavior they're involved in that's making us feel this way, and give the individual an option where they can change their behavior.
Right. Wow, that really helps a lot, how you're breaking down different quadrants of this sort of anger. And, you know, normally we think of anger as being like very